Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. My name is Dwyer. I go by the Mindset Coach,
And I am the Uncle Junior, and I go by the consistency coach.
and we are the coaches of Coach's Corner. Listen, as always, we like to start off by letting everybody know, like, if you are here and you're going to get this information, you're going to listen to what we're saying, you're going to be active and motivated and all that other great stuff. And then once you're done, you're going to do absolutely nothing with it, then this is not the place for you. However, if you're looking to be like an advocate of change, a change agent, someone who's looking to elevate, grow, and produce within your own community and within your own household and your own life, you're in the right place at the right time. That being said, Unc with the funk, the Uncle Junior himself, the consistency coach. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, man. Great day. Um, Another year down in the marriage book. So today is my second year anniversary. So publicly again to my wife, happy anniversary. It's our 2 year. Been together 10, but married for 2. So people say, why you on the show? Don't worry about that. We got things going on in our house. It's okay. She's watching. She's in the background. She's chatting. She's waiting for me to get off the show. But we have a big vacation planned here coming up shortly. So we're not really excuse me doing a whole bunch of celebrating today, other than just enjoying being around each other. And that's about it.
There you go, man. Congratulations and happy anniversary to you and
Mhm.
Miss Uncle Junior. I see you in the chat. Welcome, sis. Good to see you. Make sure he take you out and do something nice. Um, I'm joking. He was sharing with me some of the things you guys were doing earlier today, and that's just awesome. I love it. And likewise, man, I'm doing well. Had a pretty busy week. Kind of had a little bit of time to unwind after being in the field last week.
Mhm.
Got some things accomplished around here, not just work related, but business related as well. So yeah, man, all is well, all is well. And as always, I want to make sure that we give a shout out to the livest chat that is on any social media panel. So listen, we want to appreciate you. So if you are with us tonight, by all means, get in the chat so we can acknowledge you and give you your flowers here, because we do not take it lightly that you are here with us. You can be any place else, but you're here with me and my favorite uncle on Coach's Corner. So that being said, Michelle Ray, good to see you. Crystal Everett, good to see you. Nick D, good to see you as well. Adrian Walthour, good to see you, and welcome to the show, sis. Yeah, I call you Michelle Ray. I'm sorry. Let me see. N. Ellis, good to see you. Lisa Keys, good to see you. Journey, good to see you. Miss Bernadette Stephen, sorry, Simmons, forgive me. Miss Bernadette Simmons, good to see you. And again, my sister Shell, good to see you. Happy anniversary again. Let me see who else. Who else? Miss Charlotte Jordan, always good to see you and welcome to the show. Felisa Capers, good to see you. And thank you. I greatly appreciate that. And anybody else out there, again, get in the chat. Let us know that you're here, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram. It doesn't really matter. We got them all open and we're looking for you because we want to value you and appreciate you while being here. Now, before we get started, man, we need to apologize to the people.
Yeah, we do.
Listen, I know for a fact that you guys enjoyed last week's show. When we were doing it, it was such an amazing show, and it literally just kept going. And so we had to split it up. So I know that you guys were anxiously waiting for part two of appreciation, but master appreciation part two will be next week. We promise. It's already in the queue. So just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure that you got it. So listen, that being said, if you have not seen Mastering Appreciation Part One, you still got time. Go take a look at it, because I'm telling you, it's a lot of key nuggets that we put together in there. So again, I think that you guys will thoroughly enjoy it. We enjoyed
Yeah.
talking. We had a whole lot of fun. So
Yeah.
just wanted to apologize to you guys. I know you were waiting with bated breath, but we was talking about that the other day. So I
Yeah.
want to
I
start
mean, it
this.
was funny, but it wasn't funny.
Yeah,
Because when Coach had sent me the video, and then I went straight to the end. I was like, how did he end it? And I was like, oh snap. I'm like, they gonna get us for this. And then after, I was like, we're gonna have to apologize, because like I said, we didn't, it wasn't intentional, but it was like we were doing the show, and we normally run the show for right around an hour. If you want a longer show, you can go to Hearts of Men podcast on Friday night at 8 to 9:30, and you got an hour and a half of us. And it's a couple more brothers on there as well. But so we were on there and we was getting close, and I was like, we hadn't even really skimmed the surface of this topic. And then next thing you know, we just kept rolling with it. I think we kind of it was some cues there, but they were very subtle. But we both picked them up, and like a lot of people say, what's understood don't need to be explained. So we end up going for like 2 hours straight, and then that's why we end up breaking it up and stuff like that. So
Absolutely. And it was fun. But that's
it
again the second
was,
part of that is next week. So
yep,
this week we're going to kind of dive into these obstacles, and I think you guys are going to. It wasn't just cut off. I gave you a warning. It just didn't last long.
yeah, yeah.
So, we're going to dive into this week's conversation. So that being said, have you ever faced a challenge that seemed insurmountable, one that made you question whether you could achieve your goals? Obstacles are a common part of any journey, whether in our personal lives, professional careers, or even in our spiritual walk. They can be daunting and often feel like significant setbacks. But what if these obstacles are actually opportunities in disguise? In today's discussion, we'll dive into how you can not only overcome these challenges, but also use them to propel yourself towards greater growth and achievement. You will hear practical strategies for effective planning, learn about the power of growth mindset, and understand the importance of mental agility, and discover how to leverage both your personal and professional support systems. By the end of this conversation, you'll have a clear understanding of how to turn obstacles into stepping stones, leading to resilience, personal growth, and ultimate success. So let's get started on this journey of transforming setbacks into powerful growth opportunities. Now, before I get started, two things I would like to do. I want to kind of put the first question up there and give you time to process it. But as that question sits there, I want to read something because I think this thing that I'm about to read is actually key to what we're going to talk about as we're going forward. And for those who don't know, I'm talking about this book, The Obstacle is the Way. It's a great book by Ryan Holiday, and it's a short read. It's less than 200 pages, and I'm telling you, you will learn a lot about yourself, and a lot about some of the things I've been trying to tell you a lot as well. Anyway, when people panic, they make mistakes. They override systems. They disregard procedures, ignore the rules. They deviate from the plan. They become unresponsive and stop thinking clearly. They just react, not to what they need to react to, but to the survival hormones that are coursing through their veins. Welcome to the source of most of our problems down here on earth. Everything is planned down to the letter, then something goes wrong, and the first thing we do is trade in our plan for a good old emotional freakout. So I wanted to start there when it comes down to having this conversation about obstacles, because I think that is a great place to begin. So that being said, can you, my friend, describe a typical situation where people face major obstacles that at first appear to be setbacks, but ultimately result in significant personal or professional growth?
Breakups.
Mm,
I remember. I'm going to speak personally. First of all, again, yes, I know this is my anniversary, but I used to be married before. I was married for 19 years previously, right? So, and I know, and just a lot of people, right? There are a lot of people that go through a breakup, and then after that breakup, they feel like, boom, everything is done. Obstacle after obstacle. Obstacle like, who am I going to love now? Who's ever going to love me? I don't have somebody else paying the rest of these bills. I'm getting older. My body don't look, like it used to. All of these different obstacles that come when we have a breakup or when we have a divorce. Fast forward, once we get over all of that stuff, we can grow, we can meet new people, a whole bunch more positive things can come out of it. But I would say initially, man, I just want to start with breakups, because breakups are something that can destroy a lot of people, and there are a lot of people who have ended their lives over a breakup, ended up in jail over a breakup. So I just want to start off with breakups as being a major obstacle, um,
so
is the setback.
So I like the fact that you went there, and I kind of want to ask a question about that, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just read this excerpt from this book that kind of pretty much told us that our emotions tend to, you know, take us in a downward spiral whenever we run into certain situations and we press the panic button. What is it about breakups, in your opinion? Because, like you, I've been divorced as well, and I'm sure everybody in the chat and everybody who's listening has been through some type of breakup, right? What is it about a breakup that actually puts you in that situation to where you start questioning who you are, start questioning your worth, and all of that great stuff?
Um, good question. I think some of it is our mindset and how we think about ourselves in that moment. A lot of times we think we are at a certain level, but when tragedy comes or heartache comes, we kind of figure out exactly who we are. And I think breakup is one of those times. I think that, when we go through that, it's a lot. It's you're used to someone, you have somebody to talk to, you have somebody to cuddle with, you have somebody to share experiences with, you have someone to go out to eat with, you have somebody to do all these things with, and then at some point that part of your life is no longer there, and we start wondering, well, it's easy to point the blame at other people, but sometimes we start thinking about, well, you know what was my fault? Why did I do it? Is there something wrong with me? So I just think sometimes it's just innately just something that people just go through.
Hmm. Yeah, I I definitely agree with that, and I'm glad you brought that to the table. So I'm gonna go the extreme other direction,
Please do.
right? And the extreme other direction is, very quick snippet of a scenario. A family, husband, wife, and children, and one of them lose their job. Especially if the one that lost their job is the only person that's working. And so at that point, now you go into some type of mental crisis
Mm.
because now, where's the income going to come from? And there's no telling the reason why you lost your job. It could have just been, cutbacks, layoff, or whatever that looks like, or it could have been a behavioral issue. Um, but when those things come to pass, now you're going through some type of spiral. Like, where's the money going to come from? How am I going to take care of my family? We got some money in savings, but how long will that last? So you go through all of this, what I tend to call mental Olympics, trying to figure out what's going on, and the whole time you got this uneasiness that sits in your gut because you're trying to figure it out. You don't want your entire family to panic, so it's like you're very reserved with what you're sharing, but you're sharing some things. But then by that same token, it's like you're trying to figure it out, and everybody's dependent upon you, and ultimately you may end up feeling like a failure without even failure actually coming to pass. You just lost your job. Let's just call it a spade.
Mhm.
You just lost the job, but because you lost the job, you start putting pieces together, like, bills are coming and this is happening, the prom is coming, and all these other things. So now you start going down this hole where you start thinking about all of these things, and all of these things tend to add to what's going on. And then, to your point, I think one of the main reasons why it happens, which I think relationship in that particular scenario, they kind of go hand in hand, because I think a lot of people wrap their identity into the thing that they're doing. When it comes down to relationship, I think a lot of people in the midst of relationship, they view their relationship, they exist in their relationship, and it becomes an identifying marker for them. Same thing
Mhm.
with jobs. Like, if you ask a person, like, well, tell me about yourself. Well, the first thing they generally tell you is that I am a doctor, I am a lawyer, I am, contractor, I'm whatever that looks like. And so people tend to identify with the thing that they hold in high esteem. And so if you hold relationship, marriage in high esteem, then I am a husband, I'm a wife, right? If you hold your job in high esteem, because I spent most of my life in school trying to get this particular job and I've obtained it and blah, blah, blah. And don't let me have a status in a particular corporation. Oh, I am the marketing director of blah, blah, blah. So I think a lot of that is because their identity is tied to it, and therefore it's almost like a thing to where they lose it.
Yeah, and I was thinking about what you were saying, but I was thinking about it from a different perspective. when you were talking about like a job. So I think in this situation, it can work. It's similar even if you switch jobs, right? Or even switch careers, right? So for us, when we retired out of the military, and I've heard story after story about people who are nervous, scared, and they have a lot of anxiety or uncertainty when they transition out of the military. You know, for when you retire, you do 20 years, 21 years, 22, 23, and you go, you spend all of your 20s and all of your 30s in the military. That's all you know. You know, you can have a little entrepreneur gig, or you can have something on the side, and if you do, then I think you're better set up for once you get out. But the military life compared to the civilian life is totally different. You know, the setups, the makeups are just totally different. The structure is totally different. So but I think once we got out, it resulted in significant personal and professional growth. Like, I had to learn a whole bunch of stuff. I was forced to learn a lot of stuff because, let's be honest, in a sense, the military did, in a lot of ways, I don't want to say coddle, but there was everything was always given to you. Like, we always knew what uniform we was going to be in, what time we had to be at a place, where we had to be. All of these things was they were always known, you know. So it wasn't like we were always having to. I mean, you had to figure out a whole bunch of stuff. But the basics of being in the military was not hard. You just follow the directions at the end of the day, or checklist. So, you know, to your point about the jobs, I think that a lot of times this is applicable when we looking at people who are transitioning or going to a new field or even a new job.
You know, as you already know, I can relate to that. I've been through it, but here's the funny part about me. I was before I retired, I just got a divorce. So now for me, it was compounded. So I just got a divorce probably about a year prior to me retiring.
Me
Um,
too. 2 years.
so so not only dealing with the life after the marriage and making sure that I am still taking care of my responsibilities as it pertains to my kids, so forth and so on. But now that is that added pressure that I had to, shoulder when it came down to divorce, to when it came down to retiring. So for me, there was no question about what I was going to do when I was retired. I got to go to work. It's a wrap.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Listen, I'm forking over $1,700 down the street, and I'm saying down the street loosely because it's all the way in Texas. So
Hmm.
yeah, I literally got my DD 214 on a Friday. I got on the road to Oklahoma that following morning, and I was starting my new job that Monday. Simply because at the end of the day, during that process of transitioning, I knew I had to work, and that could be some uneasiness there. I wouldn't necessarily identify that for me as an obstacle, but it would have been an obstacle if I did not go through the entire transition process and had multiple jobs lined up. So I love that perspective. I'm glad you brought that to the table.
Multiple
Um,
jobs lined up.
but yeah, man, I had to. I had to. Listen, I'm seeing everybody in the chats. Chris, good to see you, brother, and welcome to the show. Um, Xavier, good to see you as well, my friend. Welcome to the show. Zavarian, I'm sorry. If brother, if I mispronounce your name, I promise you it's not intentional. I'm from the great state of Georgia. Um, so yeah, as far as everybody else, keep putting what you're putting in the chat. We're seeing it, and it is as always value added. Let's kind of dive into this, go into the next question, because I think we're going to continue to unpack some things. So based upon your experience with others, as a coach, as a soldier, as a counselor, how have you seen major obstacles impact a person's motivation and threaten their progress towards achieving goals?
Mm. Well, it's funny you mentioned, those three different things, coach and stuff like this. I'm a roll with the I'm gonna put my counselor hat on for a little bit. All right. Last 7 years been working in elementary. I am going to the high school this year, so I'll be at the high school this year. Um, but I've seen this in a lot of students who have uh, motivation in issues because of obstacles either at school or either in their home life, right? So I was in K5, so kindergarten, we're pre-K through fifth grade. So that's 3 year olds all the way through 12 years old. Possibly if you have a student who may have repeated a grade or something like that. So you got 3 year olds all the way to 12 year old, range in behaviors, all different types of things, from students who can tie their shoes to students who can't, students who know all the multiplications to students who can't pick up a pencil. So, but what I have seen a lot is a lot of obstacles, and these obstacles are home life, whether there's one parent, two parent, disabilities, um, even being bullied and having the pressure from the parents or students in school. So I'm going to stick with the pressure or the obstacle that students face from other students in school, right? So there's pressure, kids get picked on. There's a lot of identity things that go on in elementary school, all these different things like this. And sometimes when kids are getting picked on, they do not want to work. You know, they are like, well, I don't care anymore. I have been telling Miss So and so that coach has been picking on me every single day, and the teacher won't do anything about it. So I don't care anymore. So I see stuff like this happen on a regular basis and I also see it in adults, but I think sometimes this behavior continues on into adulthood. But I think, like I said, to sum it up real quick, not real quick because I've been kind of long, but to sum it up, I think that for me, a big one is seeing students who are being pressured in school, and as that being a big obstacle, and them not wanting to be motivated and not wanting to push forward and progress with their future and their studies and different things like that.
I greatly appreciate you saying that because I believe wholeheartedly that adults are just big old kids.
Yep, we are.
I think we have to accept that as a known fact. And a lot of times when life happens to us, we tend to respond in like our childlike manner. And so for this particular question here, the impact on motivation, I tend to look at it from the perspective of motivation is more so of a feeling. You get excited, and it's like it's like, and again, we talked about this a few weeks ago. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, drinking something that's high in sugar content. Well, you're going to get that quick high, but it's not going to be sustained. So the first time something comes up, then that high that you had at one particular point in time no longer exists. In fact, once that obstacle comes up, it has the ability to bring you down real quick because you start looking more so at the obstacle as opposed to the goal that you had established. So initially, it literally reduces the feeling or the emotional attachment that you have to the goal because, in my opinion, you have not committed to it yet. Right. So as long as it's simply motivation, you have not made the necessary commitment to that thing. And then because that's the case, that becomes the thing that threatens the progress. It's not really the obstacle. The obstacle just reveals the thing that exists in you that you have not yet resonated with. But when the obstacle shows up, it reveals the fact that you have not made that hard commitment. And because you have not made that hard commitment, it's too easy to walk away from a thing. And you'll hear people say it, hey, how is that? And I'm just going to use this workout plan that let's just say you present a workout plan. How did that workout plan work out for you? Oh, it didn't work for me. And see, that's the key that we put. We want to put for me on the backside of it because there's a preconceived notion that says we're all different. We're
Mm-hmm.
all different. No, we're not. We're more alike than we are different. We just like to focus our attention on our differences because our differences give us excuses. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
make the excuse based upon the 2 to 3% differences that exist within us to to so that you won't think bad about me for not doing the thing that I said I wanted to do, and that's achieve that goal.
I think when I'm looking at this, I think it becomes it what happens when an obstacle comes is based off of your resilience level. And what I mean by that is this: if there's an obstacle and then you quit, right? And then there's another obstacle and then you quit. Then there's another obstacle and then you quit. Well, you've developed you haven't developed any resilience to obstacles. So naturally, what's going to happen is, regardless of whatever situation you're in, when there is an obstacle, more than likely you're going to quit because it has become a habit and you haven't developed any type of resilience when obstacles come up in your life. So, if you want to get better at overcoming obstacles, when the obstacle come, face the obstacle, go through the obstacle. Then you will eventually develop a certain level of resiliency, and then you will be able to face harder and more challenging obstacles because they're going to come. That's the thing about obstacles. Is obstacles in a sense is just sometimes it's just life, right? Obstacles are like changing careers, losing loved ones. Like these things happen. They've been happening since the beginning of time. They're going to happen since the end of time. There are obstacles for a lot of people. How you choose to deal with your obstacles determine a lot about which direction you're going to go and how successful whatever you define as successful in your life is going to be directly tied to facing obstacles and the resiliency level that you have to obstacles.
Yes, sir. That was definitely a golden nugget. If you
I
guys
forgot
missed
about
what
that.
he just said, that was, I mean, I think you're right. Because when I heard you say that, what I heard is that some people are conditioned to failure.
Yep.
You have to really process what he just said. Some people are conditioned to failure. They'll get excited about a thing, but they're so conditioned to run from accomplishment whenever obstacles come that it's only a matter of time. You can almost start practicing. You know what I'm saying? You can almost start counting down how long it's going to take before they stay committed to that thing because they're not really committed. They're more
Yep.
committed to how they look doing the thing. They're more concerned with how how people perceive them, and that becomes an issue. So I love the fact that you said that.
But here's the thing about it then. But the thing about it is what people don't understand is they don't look at their own data. Everything that you are 100% successful at everything that you went through. Everything that you went through and came out on the other side, you have been successful at it. So why is it that when you have obstacles, you choose to not want to go through it? You've made it through every single thing that you've ever been through. At some point, we couldn't walk, we couldn't talk, we couldn't stand up, we couldn't sit up without holding out, without falling over because our head was so big. We couldn't hold a spoon, right? Everything, man, I don't know. Just
No, you're good. You're good. But see, to your point, I believe a lot of times we don't take the opportunity to define success.
mm,
So just like you said, we've been successful in everything you've been through. But
mm-hmm.
literally, we just talked about both of us got a divorce under our belt.
Yeah,
Somebody else, they're like, that's not success. No, I'm alive.
yeah,
I'm here. I
yeah.
eat every day. I'm not missing any meals. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, it's not that bad as what you're thinking. Like, did you come out the backside of it? Are you alive? Are you healthy? Do you have other relationships? Do you have good relationships? Like that failed attempt at marriage does not define success. The success must be redefined in your mind so that you can stop looking at a thing as pass or failing, which again is one of those things that the school system kind of injected into your psyche. So redefine success, and once you
Mm-hmm.
redefine success, I think that'll be the great answer. We got some highlighted stuff over here. My brother Sandon, good to see
Yeah.
you, man. Good to see you as always. He said, "Let's talk about stress. What about stress becoming an
Ooh.
obstacle to other parts of your life? The job is stressful, which translates into health obstacles, etc." Man, you are spot on, bro.
Ooh, yeah, let's talk
You want
about
me
it.
to turn that over to you first, or you want me to go?
Um, yeah, let's talk about it. Sandon, that's my guy right there. These do
Mhm.
me and Sandon did 1,000 burpees one day a couple years ago.
Nope, ain't gonna do
Um,
it.
yeah, but that's my guy right there.
Yeah.
Bruh, stress, mental stress, physical stress, all of those different things like that. When you are stressed out, just like many doctors and many studies have shown that it translate into your health. So now your health is affected because your mental is affected. And now, because your health and your mental is affected, that becomes an obstacle. And now you can't do certain things. Like I tell people all the time, people are, why you work on, why you do this, blah, blah, blah. Because I told you, my kids ain't got no grandfathers and uncles and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I want to be alive and I want to be around here so I can participate in their lives. When my granddaughter say, hey, pop, let's go and let's throw the ball, I want to be able to do that. I don't want my weight or my health to be an obstacle for me. I don't want my weight and my health to cause stress on my life to whereas I'm mentally not wanting to be around and spend time with my grandkids. So Sandon is 100% correct. And that's what I'm going to end with right there.
I love it. Look, first and foremost, before I respond, wherever you are, regardless of whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, it doesn't really matter. LinkedIn, go ahead and hit the like button. That way, the algorithm loves the like button, by the way. So just hit the like button and then share it because, as you can see, we're starting to unpack this thing really well. And Sandon, I thank you for this question, brother. Listen, every time Sandon shows up, he always brings value, and I greatly appreciate that. Stress. I want to start off by saying there's good stress and there's bad stress. Okay. When we look at stress, some stress can actually be to the point to where it moves me off my spot, right? It could make me aware of certain things. It could keep me it could keep me vigilant on certain things as well. So there's the good stress, but then there's the bad stress, the stress that is lingering, the stress that's prolonged, the stress that has that slow cortisol drip, things of that nature. One of those, a great example of this is being in a work environment to where you're constantly on edge. You got a supervisor, and that supervisor is not a good leader, right? So they keep you constantly on edge. You're nervous, you're worried about what's going on. And then they're the type of person that actually threatens your job with paperwork, your performance evaluation, things of that nature. That is an example of bad stress. And so when these things start to kick in, you start looking at certain health issues that starts to come behind it, right? So you look at high blood pressure, you start looking at headaches, you start looking at blurred vision, you start looking at being edgy and being on edge and being short tempered and things of that nature. So now all of these things by itself, one thing leading to the other. So the obstacle of the health issues following the stress can now become an obstacle that if you do not learn to navigate, what ends up happening is that the obstacle can win and it's itself can move you out of the space of that particular job, take you away from your loved ones, like you mentioned, so forth and so on. So I love this question because at our age, right, 50 and over, get soon to be 50 and 50 and over, right? At our age, your health is a major, I won't say a major concern, but there's some things you need to think about now more than you did 20 years ago. You got to get up and you have to constantly move around. You have to get your heart rate up to a certain amount. Multiple times throughout the week so that you can maintain good health and learn how to deal with stress. That's the key. You can't prevent certain stressors from happening, but you can be going back to the consistency coach point. You can increase in resiliency so that when those things show up, you become more pliable. You have the ability to bounce back, and that's one of the most important things that we need to do. So increase that resiliency. Get out there, exercise, drink a lot of water, get have difficult conversations early. Bad news doesn't get better with time, right? Do not allow the stress of something that can potentially happen when you can get ahead of it and let's just get it out the way and have it right now instead of waiting. Like one of the things I hated, bro, when I was young, wait till your daddy get home. I couldn't stand it because now I'm worried. I'm like, oh my goodness, you know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of like what happens when we do stuff of that nature. So now we got to get to the point to where we recondition certain things of our mind in our minds so that we can do the things that we need to do to be healthy and overcome these obstacles.
Charlotte Ann did that. Where did your daddy get home? Boy, I be straight though, like a church mouse for about 2 days.
Yes,
And I
sir.
remember one day, like a day or two went by, and he was like, I'm still supposed to give you a whooping, right? Bro, I was back straight again. Bro, that fear of getting a whooping, shoot, it'll have you straight for about a good week.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, these
So is that the same as saying a person doesn't finish anything that started? I think she was making reference to what we mentioned earlier. Sure. Like from an outside perspective, if you know a person who constantly starts things but they don't ever finish, and when you talk to them, it didn't work for me. That could be something that they're dealing with. I'm not saying that it is, right? Maybe they just have not found the thing that they resonate with yet, the thing that they're passionate about. So you have people who start and stop things, start and stop things, and start and stop things. And sometimes if they just wait and they find that thing that they're passionate about, the passion for that thing will keep them in it. But we just got to be careful that we're not conditioning ourselves for failure, like the consistency coach said earlier. All right. Don't let others define. Absolutely, David Brown. Thank you for saying that. And he's absolutely right. You can't allow anybody else to define your success. I've been married for 28 years, but separated for almost 4. I can't seem to end it because I think it would mean I'm a failure. I get you, brother. I'm with you. I would just share this part. I was married for 14 years, and anybody I've talked to, I said that was 7 years too long, because at some place around the 7 year mark, I realized that we were moving in separate directions. But because I was in the army, I kept leaving and coming and leaving and coming and whatever the case may be. And then eventually, right around the last time I came back from Korea, the second time, I went straight to the lawyer office and filed the paperwork. So I
Mm.
understand what that means. I know it wasn't 28 years; it was 14 years. But I really do understand, because let's think about it. Especially if we as men have children, like, you don't want to leave your kids. I didn't want to leave my son, right? My son need his father. So to me leaving him made me feel like I was a failure. So I
Yeah,
get that.
I'll respond to this too. Michael, absolutely right, man. There are a lot of men and women who are in this situation to where, they feel like they're a failure. You know what I mean? Some of this comes from our upbringing. Some of this comes from things that we were taught in church. And at least that's kind of what I was taught, that, you stay no matter what, regardless of things are bad or not, you stay in that marriage. And if you don't, fire and hail and brimstone, and you're a failure, you're not a man, you wasn't a good father. But at the end of the day, and I will say this to Michael, and I'll end it, you know, we can't control anybody else. We can be the best person out there, but we have no control over what someone else decides to do, So ending a marriage does not make you a failure.
No,
I personally thought that that was me at some point. I was married for 19 years. I'm 48. I'm celebrating my second year anniversary today. Me and my wife have been together for 10 years. So I am personally here as an example of somebody who thought that ending their marriage was a failure, to only keep going in life, getting over all of this, and end up finding my person. And again, we're celebrating our anniversary today. So, Michael, my guy, if you need anything, reach out to me.
yeah, and I echo that. Like, that does not make you a failure. Like, we have to, as especially as men, and I'm not saying it's just solely for men, right?
Yep.
But as men, we have to redefine what success looks like in our head, because everybody else have given us what success looks like. Provide and protect. No, that's not success. That's what their version of success looks like to us. But when we redefine it in our head, when we recognize that presence, right, may be better than being present, then we'll get to the point to where we'll start seeing things differently. We'll start behaving. We'll start. What's the word I'm looking for? Regulating. There we go.
Mm.
We'll start regulating and resolving within ourselves, and we'll do the right thing, because let's just be honest. Holding on to a thing too long can be detrimental to both of our healths, and it could go back to what Brother Sandon was talking about. It could be prolonged stress. And sometimes, like for me, I had to make a decision. Look, it was best for both of us to go our separate ways, because we were
Mhm.
at a certain point we were bad together.
And another thing to Michael, my last little point is that we, as a person, we're made up of so many different parts. So even if we have success or failure, and that's only in one part of our life, that doesn't make up the whole person of exactly who we are. Like, I am the consistency coach, I am Uncle Junior, but those are only one parts of my life. I'm a husband, that's one part of my life. I'm a father, that's one part of my life. I'm a counselor, that's one part of my life. So even if we fail in one area or we don't have success in one area, that one thing doesn't define who we are as a person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I kind of want to set the next question up because we talked about this previously. And I kind of talked about goal setting, right? So you plan, you establish a plan for accomplishing goals. And then what you do is in the midst of that plan, you also plan to mitigate risks. So you identify the risks that could show itself that could hinder your goal accomplishment. Then you come up with mitigation measures for those particular obstacles so that we can either capitalize on that obstacle when it shows itself, or we know exactly what to do to maneuver around that obstacle so it doesn't prevent us from moving forward. That said, what practical strategies do you recommend for effective planning to anticipate and mitigate obstacles? And how do setting realistic goals and breaking them into manageable steps benefit this process?
Um, the first part, practical strategies. For me, and I think it works, is just writing stuff down. Not only writing things down, but going back and look at what you write. I had a great habit of writing things down. I had a horrible habit of going back and looking over my notes and seeing the things that I had written down. It does no good for me to write things down and I don't go back and look at them. So I would say for one thing is effective planning is to write things down. Like Coach mentioned, anticipating and things are going to come up, right? So do you have a plan for when things come up? That's we can just look at finances for this right here, right? So let's look at finances, right? So life happens, something is going to come up. You're going to get divorced. Somebody want to go to college. Somebody going to want a new car. Somebody going to want some new Jordans. Somebody going to want a new iPhone, right? There are going to be obstacles and things that come up to where you're going to have to shell out some money. Where do you have a plan for when life happens and when these things come up? You know, and I think that's very important because a lot of times what we do is good, bad, or indifferent. We're just wake up and we're just living life and we don't have a plan. So I think first of all, writing these things down so you can look at them and see them is one way. And then how do they help? How do setting realistic goals and breaking them into manageable steps benefit this? Because now you can see it. If I write everything down, I can look at it, I can see it. I got a whiteboard right here. I got one right here. I got a big 1 year calendar on the wall. And then I have a Google calendar. Then I have another planner right here. So I I got a whole bunch of stuff going on over here, but it helps me to mitigate certain things. I don't get surprised a lot when certain things come up because I write everything down, so not a lot of things slip by me. Some things do because you can't plan for everything. But yeah,
I,
that's what
I,
that's what I'm gonna go with.
no, you good, man. I love that. Um, I would say it like this. You ever seen the TV series Loki?
Uh-uh.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting because in the TV series Loki, one of the things you realize is like a law enforcement entity. I can't remember what the name were, and so their job was to protect time, and time was on a continuum. And when things got out of whack, you will see it would be branches that peeled off from time. So their job was to go back in time so that they can actually put those branches back in place, find out what was actually happening. So I say that because at the end of the day, I think that's kind of like what we have to do. We start with the end in mind. So whatever the thing is that you want to accomplish. Okay. From there, you identify goals coming backwards. So you have the aspiration, and then you have goals that walk you all the way up to aspiration. And so I know we talked about this a few weeks ago. But if the goal was for me to own my own medical practice, then of course I have to have my own medical degree. Of course, I have to figure out what school I'm going to go to and all this other stuff. So these things now become the goals in there. So when I look at each goal along the pathway of the aspiration, what is the thing that can prevent me from accomplishing each goal along the way? Once I identify those things that can prevent me from accomplishing a goal, then I come up with a plan to mitigate that thing. But I also need to come up with what are the things that actually are revealed to me to show me that this thing is likely to happen. So as far as the medical degree, I have to maintain a certain GPA, whatever the case may be, to ensure I graduate. Well, when we start looking at them grades say, hey, a red flag for me, a big indicator for me is when my GPA falls to, like, let's just say, I don't know, 85. I'll say 85%. Once my GPA falls at 85%, I need to start making some changes. I need to implement the plan that I have in place. What could my plan possibly be? Increase my study time, right? Block out all distractors during that time. Like, change something. Something must change in order for you to mitigate that obstacle. So I think that becomes key, because now what you're doing is you broke up your goals, right? You broke up you created the process for goal accomplishment all the way to aspiration. You identified each, and based upon your understanding, as you see it, you've identified each obstacle that can prevent you from accomplishing a goal. If you want, bring in somebody else and get their point of view as well. They have a different perspective, they have a different background, and they may see different obstacles that can stand there. And once you do that, you automatically come up with a plan to mitigate those particular obstacles when it presents itself.
Sometimes, bro, sometimes writing stuff down can mitigate obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when you actually write down your calendar and like go in there and look out and you plan it 3 months out and you put everything on there, like birthdays, holidays, and stuff like this, you like, oh snap, it's May, wifey's birthday in May, Mother's Day in May, Brandon's birthday in May. You know what I mean? So it's like you can you can set up a little bit of money on the side so you can buy some birthday cards or whatever it is. But a lot of times when you write things down and you look at things from a wide lens, you can mitigate a lot of things because you can see a lot more of the picture. The picture becomes a lot bigger and it becomes a lot brighter when you can see a bunch of different aspects of the picture. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey
Now,
man.
my next question is probably my favorite question. One of my favorite
Oh.
questions, right? Because there's some things that we're gonna have to deal with when the stress, going back to Brother Sandin, when the
Mhm.
stress of the obstacle present itself. So, what is mental agility, and what role does it play in overcoming obstacles?
I like this too. All right. So, as a fitness guy, as someone who has played sport, I started playing sports at I think 7 in 1983. So I started playing sports a long time. And one of the things that we used to always do in sports was something called agility drills, right? So if you have ever done any sports and I don't know if they still do them now, but I think they do, right? So as a running back, you're working on agility drills or drills that help you while you're running the ball, whether it's cutting, whether it's sticking your arm out, whether it's how to grab the ball, whole bunch of different things, right? Your feet work, what I mean, where to plant, how to cut, all these different things. So I think when it comes to mental agility, it's the same thing. It's being able to move, being able to shift when stuff happens, right? So when something comes at me, can I shift, right? So when I don't know when my boss tell me, hey, look, you got to work late today. You know what I mean? Can I shift and can I deal with that obstacle when my kid tell me the day before? I'm gonna trigger some of y'all. Your child tells you the day before that they have a field trip the next day, and they need some outfits, they need some swimming shoes, and they need some snacks, right? If you ain't got that mental agility, be like, boom, boom, boom. All right, we got it. All right, it's last minute. I'm gonna chew them out. I'm gonna get mad at them. But then we're gonna head over here to Walmart. We're gonna get these shoes. We're gonna get these snacks. And then, oh, by the way, oh, brother, for the next week, you got to earn these. You know what I mean? You got to pay them back. You know what I mean? For making me do last minute stuff. So I think when you have that mental agility, it allows you that flexibility to be able to move and be able to shift when life happens at a faster rate than you would if you didn't have that mental agility.
I see what you did there, sir. I like that. I like that. I like that.
I like sports,
Um,
man.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think I'm about to answer Lisa's question at the same time. Um, so when it comes down to, and I want to spin off of what you just said. You over there? I'm sorry. I'm gonna spin off of what you just said. Um, Here's why I like that analogy, because the reason why you actually do agility drills during practice, and so that it can improve your balance during the game. Well, mental agility, if we do mental agility drills during our developmental years, when you become adults, you have mental balance. So, what does that really mean? That means that I'm not fixed to my way of thinking. I may have an idea on how to do a thing, but then Uncle Junior say, "Hey, I like that idea, but what if we do this right here? What if we actually do this right here?" I have the ability to say, "Nope, we're gonna stick with my plan," or I can say, "You know what? I like that. Hmm. Okay, I can abandon what I was thinking and go with what he was thinking, because what he was thinking was actually a better course of action." So, mental agility is the ability to be flexible in your thinking, not being fixed to one particular idea. Well, it's good to tell your child no. I'm gonna start there, because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, your child wants what they want. But when you tell them no, now it forces them to go through all of the things that they need to go through mentally so that they can work through. The answer is still no, but they're going to have to find a way to resonate with themselves when you say no. One of the worst things you can do is tell them no and say, "Come sit in my lap, baby. It's okay." Because now you're trying to make them feel good. No, they need to figure that part out on their own. That's part of that agility that they're going to have to get accustomed to, right? And so mental agility at that point now becomes one of the biggest things that we need when it comes down to obstacles, because kind of like what I said previously, when we create this plan, well, if I'm fixed to the plan, and I'm gonna say it again, if I'm fixed to the plan, the obstacle can derail me if it's a significant enough obstacle. However, comma, I can relinquish something for the sake of progression to continue forward, even though the obstacle may have taken a small portion of something away from me. Was that thing significant for me to need, or was it significant for me to progress? Because the obstacle by itself is not a bad thing. The obstacle is actually there to make you grow, to actually make you, think differently than what you're thinking, consider these things, and so forth and so on. So your ability to be flexible in your thinking when it comes down to goal accomplishment is how you get to the point of mitigating obstacles. Sure, we have a plan to mitigate the obstacle, but what happened when that plan does not work as you see it fit? Do you have the ability to be flexible and flex from one side to the other and adjust this so that you can actually get through with that? So I hope I answered Lisa's question along with what some of everybody else is saying as well, because I see some other responses and they look very good.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Bring up Michelle Ray's, um because it looked like she is addressed in master resiliency. Mental agility, according to master resiliency, is the ability to respond to events in a flexible way, changing situations and move quickly. Yeah, I wouldn't between ideas. Um, I,
He's in the military.
yeah, I wouldn't. I agree with everything. I'm not so much the move quickly thing. I get it though. Like I said, like you said, it's a master resiliency definition. But everything else looks good to me. But the move quickly thing, I think sometimes it is good for us to compare ideas. Like it's okay for us to sit in a room and compare ideas, kind of like a brainstorm, to see which one gets us closer to what the plan of accomplishment looks like. But I'm not saying it's wrong. I just, for me personally, I don't.
I think it's sometimes, right?
Okay,
So like kind of to what you were saying, right? Once we become adults and you was talking about we built up a certain level of resiliency, whatever like this, I'm going to be able to respond to things naturally faster because I've already developed it, right? So if
gotcha,
when something comes to me, I can immediately shut off because we've already been down this road before. So I'm just like, so I think in that sense, it does help you move quickly to make certain decisions because you've grown and you have a certain level of understanding because you may have possibly been through some of these obstacles and stuff before. So I think in that sense, I do understand that question. I
gotcha.
do understand that part
No,
of it.
no, I got you. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was saying what I was saying from the perspective of understanding mental agility and
Yeah.
implementing it in the
Yeah.
beginning, it's not going to be any quick movements, right?
Yeah.
Still practicing. Like case in point, going back to the army. When you were in the army and we created these plans based upon MDMP, the enemy always gets a vote. And so what
Mhm.
ends up happening is that you go and tell the commander a thing, and the commander will sit and listen and think, and then eventually the commander will come back with an idea or thought based upon the change that we need to make. So in that, especially something that big, a campaign where your aspirations is a campaign. So that's why I was saying it that way. But I definitely see the idea of sometimes. Great point. Lisa Keys says adapting and being willing to consider and adjust. That's key. Can aid in overcoming obstacles. Absolutely. Adrian, I have some agility, but the drama queen in me comes out first. Is there a way to improve the initial emotional response? Example, the parents fussing at the child. Very good. Can we put a pin there for a second? I think we're going to get there, but I really do like that question. And I want you to hold me to it because if we don't answer your question, bring it up again. And that way I can come circle back around and come straight to it. But thank you for that. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What strategies can individuals use to cultivate a growth mindset, to view challenges as opportunities to develop new skills and strategies?
Um, I wrote down a couple of things. Obstacle awareness. I forgot where I wrote that down. But then I wrote down obstacle opportunity and obstacles. So what I mean by the I think one strategy you can do is when you look at an obstacle, look at it as an opportunity, right? So when I got divorced, long time ago, I looked at that as an obstacle initially, but then later on, there was an opportunity, because when we split up, there was an opportunity for me to work on myself, to learn about myself, to figure out what things I had done wrong in the relationship so I don't bring those things into my new relationship. So it was after a while, after the pity party was over and everything else was over from all of that stuff and the breakup and stuff, now it was an opportunity to grow and to get better. So I think one strategy that people can do is just turn the frown upside down, like Pee Wee Herman used to say, is and all you have to do is when you look at that obstacle, look at it as an opportunity. You know, what am I going to learn from this obstacle that's going to help me later on down the road or right after it? When there is an obstacle, what can I benefit from this obstacle that's going to make me a better person? So I think right there is where I want to end with.
No,
Look at the obstacle as an opportunity.
no, I like that. Um, for me, the first thing I would say is I need to understand the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And
Mm,
so look at them and mentally process them. Which one do I look more like? Do I look more like a fixed mindset person, or do I look more like a growth mindset person? If I look more like a fixed mindset person, I need to now move myself over to this one. The reason why I wanted to wait on Adrian's question is because a lot of times when it comes down to my initial emotional response, my initial emotional response is only an identifier of where I am and where I am in comparison to this situation. Even if I don't like the fact that this is an orange cup, there's absolutely nothing I can do about this being an orange cup. So for me to be mad that Garfield gave me an orange cup is pointless. But I can appreciate the fact that he gave me a cup. That's the more appropriate choice to go with. So understanding the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset is the start. Once I do that, then now I need to understand, how do I move from here to here? How do I move from here to here? A lot of times there are things that we can do. Practice appreciation, practice mindfulness, practice meditation. Meditation allows me to focus on things, right? What am I focusing on? I am focusing on the silver lining of the thing. Going back to her question, right? If what is there a way to improve the initial emotional response? Don't respond. I think that's the first thing to do. I don't have to respond to everything. I don't have to, and we gotta. I want to make sure I'm using the right word. I don't have to react to everything, because if I am expressing myself emotionally about the color of this cup, that's a reaction, not a response. If I am thanking Garfield for buying me this cup, now it's me. I am responding because it's a thoughtful engagement with the emotions put in the proper place, and now it's pointed at Garfield. That kind of goes back to our conversation last week about appreciation. Appreciation is always better than, and I call it depreciation, right? Because every time I choose the downward path of a thing, I'm depreciating. I am descending from a higher altitude. Anything that makes me descend from a higher altitude is basically a fixed mindset. So in the midst of that, again, mindfulness practice, the meditation, you got to look at controlled breathing. I can't remember what it's called right now, but control your breathing. Start meditating, energy management, right? Because that's another thing. If you realize that your heart start racing really fast, like now you start talking about the breathe, control breathing. That kind of gets your heart rate to slow down. So all of these things is all about mindfulness. All of these things that gets you to the place of a growth mindset. And a growth mindset is the thing that allows you to exercise mental agility in the midst of obstacles.
I can dig it, man.
Who is Paul
I can dig
Rubin?
it. I think it was Pee Wee Herman,
Oh, okay.
real name, government
Oh,
name.
okay, yeah, I had no idea. Okay, and Adrian, I hope your question was answered. If not, again, chime in, reframe the question, and we'll definitely come back and get after it. Next question: what are some pros and cons of encountering obstacles when pursuing goals, and how do these obstacles impact the overall journey toward achievement? I think we
Mm,
kind of touched on that a little bit, didn't we?
probably. I mean, pros and con when countering obstacles, I think sometimes have to go into our mindset and where we are with the obstacle, right? Because sometimes we can see an obstacle and we can see an opportunity to grow. And sometimes we can see an obstacle and be like, you know what? I'm gonna exit stage left. I'm gonna go and do something different. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
I got you. I'm with
Yeah.
you. Real quick, I would just say the pros and cons of an obstacle. First and foremost, the obviousness is that it's a con. It is something that has the ability to deter my forward progression. That's one of the obvious things that exist there. The second thing, when it comes down to a con, like what am I going to have to sacrifice in
Mm,
the midst of this obstacle? A lot of times I got to give up something. I got to negotiate this obstacle. Am I going to give up speed? Am I going to give up time? Am I going to give up resources? I'm going to have to give up something for this obstacle. Okay. Now, what is the pro? Believe it or not, the obstacle will make you a better person because it makes you consider different avenues. It makes you analyze the situation, think into it, and maybe employ other people in the midst of negotiating this obstacle. Sometimes you can't negotiate the obstacle by yourself. Sometimes you may have to wait in order for that obstacle to bypass. I give you a perfect example. If I'm traveling cross country and a bad storm happened, I may have to pull over. that is an insurmountable obstacle that I am not going to negotiate, especially if that is one, especially if that storm is like a tornado or something of that nature. I'm not negotiating that. I'm making a command decision. Pause. Right. So that's one of the things that we can actually do. But in the midst of making that short tactical pause to allow that storm to bypass, what I realized is after the storm bypassed, I made the best decision for everybody that's traveling with me. And so the other pro to it is that it solidifies in you, it actually validates in you that you're in the right mental wavelength for the goal that you're trying to accomplish. So I think when we start looking at pros and cons, there can be several that we can identify in that particular moment. But I think a lot of times it's indicative of the obstacle that is presented to us. Some obstacles we actually invited for based upon the decisions that we made. I'm gonna say that part again because sometimes we just don't get it. Some obstacles we invite because of the decisions that we make, right? And so when we look at those things, those obstacles, they're gonna cost me a little bit more because at the end of the day, I was the one that made the decision for that obstacle to be an obstacle. So these obstacles will impact your overall journey toward achievement simply by, reduction in resources, delay in time. But by that same token, it codifies in your mind that you're on the right path, you're making the right decision, and you're fully equipped to negotiate the obstacles that come by. And oh yeah, by the way, that obstacle is a springboard because it elevates you. Because another obstacle of that magnitude will not slow you down now. I've already negotiated this obstacle here. I know what I need to do if that same obstacle shows up over here. So now my resiliency has increased, and the next obstacle that slows me down, has to be at a higher level.
I think, just to add to what you were saying as another pro is kind of what we talked about earlier, that it helps build resilience. You know what I mean? Overcome, when you face and then eventually overcome your obstacles, you add another layer of resiliency in your life. So I think that's another pro that comes with encountering obstacles while you're pursuing the goals, because then you get to go back and look at it. I mean, like I look at running, right? So you look at somebody who start off running day one, January 1st of 2024. Look at somebody who may do a couch to 5K or something like that, but they've never ran in their life, and they start up and they run 10 steps, and then they have to walk the rest of the mile to eventually they can run one full mile and then walk the other 2.1 or 2.2, whatever.
Right.
So I think that what happens is every day their legs, their heart, their body builds up a little bit more resiliency to the pressure and the pain that you're experiencing on your body physically because you've never done anything. So I think, yeah, that's a good analogy. I think is the fitness and the transitioning from not doing anything to being able to do something physically in life.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that being said, because we pretty much danced around that last question, Adrian, I want
Yeah.
to make sure that we answered your question. So please, let us know, and if not, like I said, reformat the question. We'll give it another go. Also, because of the time, we have some multiple choice questions, but do you want to just go with the true false so that we can?
And let's do like two true false and then hit a scenario or something.
All right, very well.
That cool?
Yeah, that's cool. I can do that.
All right.
So I tell you what, let's bring up the first true false question. I'm gonna know. True or false? Obstacles should always be viewed as negative experiences that hinder progress and should be avoided whenever possible.
False. False,
Uncle
false, false.
says two thumbs
Two
down.
thumbs down. I wish I had more hands so I could get this question four thumbs down.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Shout
False
out to Dave
is the
Chappelle.
answer. Yeah, absolutely. All right, listen, you guys in the chat, we want you to respond, right? Because we're building up to something, and one of these shows is going to be all game. It's going to be a full day, it's a full episode of games, and we're going to pull questions from different shows. So,
Oh yeah.
and this is what I concluded, and I share it with you um, before we move forward. What I'm going to do is going to be us against the chat. but we're going to be on
Mm,
a 5 second delay. So we cannot answer the question for 5 seconds after reading it, which gives them the opportunity to type in their answer. Uh,
okay.
so just my initial thoughts. You tell me what you think on that. And
Yeah.
I love to get everybody's feedback in the chat as well. Okay. Next true false question. True or false? Mental agility involves the ability to adapt and pivot when faced with unexpected challenges.
I will say true.
What say ye in the chat?
I
Unc
should have
says
waited. I thought I waited five
you
seconds.
did. You did.
Okay.
You slow. There you go. We got one
Okay.
true in there. We
Lisa
got
in
one.
there. Lisa Keys.
We
She's
got
in there.
two trues.
And Michelle. There they go. They got a couple truths.
All right. All
Oh,
right.
Verlaine, that's true.
Everybody, poor man, Dr. Phil.
Roland, my
Show.
guy.
Yes, sir.
Charlotte Jordan said true.
All right. Unanimous true. Absolutely, sir.
Oh,
Everybody's
true.
correct. Okay. Let's jump on a scenario real quick. Um, bring this up.
Yeah, I get to see
There
a
we go.
scenario.
All right. The scenario is imagine a small business owner named Jordan who recently launched a new product in a competitive market. Shortly after the launch, Jordan faced several challenges. The product received mixed reviews. There were supply chain disruptions, and a key team member left unexpectedly. These obstacles initially seemed like major setbacks, threatening the success of the new product. However, Jordan decided to take on a proactive approach by implementing strategic planning, seeking advice from mentors, and adopting a flexible mindset. Over time, Jordan not only managed to overcome these challenges, but also improved the product, secured a more reliable supply chain, and built a stronger team, ultimately leading to increased sales and market recognition. So, under the umbrella of understanding the nature of obstacles, how do obstacles play a role in personal and professional growth for Jordan? A. Obstacles are always detrimental and should be avoided at all costs. B. Obstacles can provide opportunities for growth and improvement. C. Obstacles are neutral and have no impact on growth. And D. Obstacles should be ignored to maintain focus on goals. They coming in.
Bravo.
Bravo, bravo,
Bravo.
bravo.
Now, some reason my spidey senses went up about D. And the only reason is because when you have a team, sometimes, well, you ain't never really ignoring them. So that's the thing. Or are you? I'm just thinking about, right? I'm just thinking about a team leader or something putting out information and somebody's being annoying in the background, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Yapping or talking or having a conversation, right? So there been an obstacle because someone is trying to present and there's people back there talking and carrying on a conversation. So should we ignore that conversation or that obstacle that's getting in the way of people getting the information? You know what I mean? To maintain the focus on the goal, which is to give the information out. So, but I may be way off in left field with this.
no, you're not way off in left field. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
I want to answer that way. For me, I'm gonna still choose B
Yeah,
because I'm gonna give him the growth and improvement that his behavior is requesting right now.
there you go.
That's how I'm going to respond. Now, to your point, in a project management team, we assign risk management to certain people, so they look for certain things.
Mhm.
So, do the project manager focus on um, the actual obstacle itself? Not until somebody brings it to him or to
Yeah.
their attention. Once it's brought to their attention, then they make sure that the mitigation plan is implemented, but there's no need for the whole team to focus on it. So
Mhm.
that's why I would start off there. So great,
Okay.
great point. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
We got time for one more before we go in the
Yep.
final. All right, let's do
Yes,
one
sir.
more. Little homie will be addressed. Okay, same scenario, right? How did Jordan maintain motivation and resilience in the face of significant challenges? By ignoring the problems and hoping they'll resolve themselves, by adopting a proactive approach and seeking advice from mentors, by giving up on the new product and starting a different project, or D, by placing all blame on the team and not addressing the issues.
again, we have Bravo.
Okay. All right.
Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Look like Lisa says B as well.
Man, in a way, sometimes I wish we would have stayed on relationships a little bit more this episode.
Mm.
Because I think when we look at communication, there's a lot of there's a lot of obstacles just in communication in our relationships. Sometimes with our in personal relationships with our spouses, girlfriends, boyfriends, with our kids,
Hmm.
with our parents, with our employees or subordinates or whatever like that, employees, employers, and stuff. Um, I mean, kind of, we're off of it now. We're almost done, but in a
The
way,
answer, hey, the answer is B.
the answer is B.
The answer is
Answer is
B.
B.
Hey, give little buddy what they're requiring right now. It
Yeah.
doesn't
No
for me,
homie.
and I hate to sound, and I know people say I sound robotic. That's fine, um, but I think it doesn't change. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's all based upon. See somebody else. Y'all requested part two. See, there you go. Um, I think the only reason we think it changes is because of who the person is.
Mm.
But what we're doing is we're compromising our values for interconnection. But the values should never change. Values should never change. So if I am all about treating people with dignity and respect at work, I should also be about treating people with dignity and respect at home as well. That shouldn't change. So when you violate that, little buddy at work, according to Nick D, I'm using
No
that. I like
homie.
that. But thank you, little homie. I'm sorry, little homie at work. He got to get this work. But at home, you got to get this work. It's the same thing. It's just
Mm-hmm.
going to be a different way I handle it, right? But I'm gonna still handle it. And I think what we do sometimes we be like, oh well, that's just how they are. No, now you're compromising with your morals and your values, and your values should never be something that you compromise.
Because I think an obstacle in communication is not verbally communicating.
Absolutely,
'Cause you can't talk to somebody who don't want to have the conversation. So that's an obstacle in trying to get to a solution. But
absolutely.
that's an that's
Hey,
another whole show.
look here, we're being chastised in the chat, man. So we got to press forward. All right, so that takes us to
Oh yeah, we
our
already in the hole.
advice.
And how far we out with like shows? Oh, like
Oh man,
August.
we into the month of August now.
So are we going to tell everybody? No, we just
All right, let's go to our actual advice.
who's on first?
I tell you what, you want to go first because I'm gonna read
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yep. Let me roll. I'll go first. Our actionable advice. All right, folks. So your actionable advice for this week is this. Now, so if you are unsure about, or maybe this is your first time here and you're kind of unsure about what actionable advice is, it's just a little bit of advice, a little bit of information that you can take with you until we meet back up over here next Tuesday, right? So my actionable advice for this actually back up. So today, I'm sorry. Today we were talking about overcoming obstacles and strategies to stay on track, different things like that, right? So for me, one of the things that I believe that everybody needs to do is to build up more resilience in your life. There are going to be plenty of things that are going to happen to you over and over and over. They started when you was a child and they're going to continue until the day that you're no longer on this earth. Life is going to happen and you're going to have challenges. And we need to have a certain level of resiliency to deal with these things. So, one thing that I believe that helps with resiliency is doing something hard. So, for the next 7 days, your actionable advice is to do this, is to do something hard or something that you do not want to do that is healthy or that is for you for the next 7 days, whatever it is may be. If it is something as simple as setting your alarm and getting up and not hitting the snooze button, then do that. Just do something challenging or do something hard for you or do something that is hard for you for the next 7 days. That's my actionable advice.
Okay. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation on overcoming obstacles. And as you see, we can continue going on and on and on talking about obstacles. But I want to redirect everybody back to this little book here. It is called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Like I said, it's a short read. It's less than 200 pages. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of great points that you would get out of this book. Now, what I will also add to you, I just want to share this one piece, and this would get into my actionable advice. There are a few things to keep in mind when faced with a seemingly insurmountable obstacle. We must try to be objective, to control emotions and keep an even keel, to choose to see the good in a situation, to steady our nerves, to ignore what disturbs our limits or limits others, to place things in perspective, to revert to the present moment, to focus on what can be controlled. Pick one of those things and make that a focus for the next 30 days. So, with that being said, if mine was to be objective, then I should focus on the next, and I say for the next 30 days, focus for the next 30 days to be completely objective. Sure, subjectivity is still going to exist, but I am looking at improving on being objective. If it's to see the good in every situation, my goal in every situation is to find the silver lining for the next 30 days. Practice these things. To place things in a perspective, right? Try to place things into a proper perspective that looks more like a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. So that's my actionable advice for the next 30 days. Focus on one of those 10 points that Ryan Holiday issues, and the obstacle is the way. Listen, I need to apologize to you guys over here on Instagram. I wasn't even, you know what, and they was giving answers, man. True BB. I mean, I apologize. So listen, I wanted to make sure I acknowledge that because that was my error. So again, charge it to don't charge it to my heart. We want to also thank everybody for participating in this conversation. Again, if you have not seen last week's conversation in appreciation, go back and take a look at that because next week's conversation is appreciation part two. And Michelle Ray, we see how you talking about us in the chat. Anyway, that being said, listen, man,
Yeah.
you guys have an awesome day. I'm sorry, bro. You want to give some your final thoughts, some final words, real quick before we take out?
Yeah, again, we really appreciate everybody hanging out with us here. We went over today, a little bit, we're a lot, 20 something minutes. So appreciate everybody who stayed in and tuned in and watched. Always a shout out to the most empowering chat, all of that stuff. We really appreciate y'all. We go out here and we behind the scenes and we try to come up with topics and stuff that we think are relevant to what people our age or kind of generation are kind of sort of going through. You want to just give back the information and knowledge that we have, so really appreciate y'all for that. Again, this Friday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Hearts of Men podcast. Next Tuesday for the part two from last week's episode. And then we're gonna just keep rolling. We got shows and stuff planned all the way out. Again, if at any time, you know, we are always open to information. We're always open for feedback, and we're open to even having, you guys even offer us some suggestions, as far as show topics and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, me and Coach, we're here for you guys. What I mean? We're here. We want to help you guys. We want to give you guys information. And then me and Coach like to cheat and learn from each other at the same time. So that's kind of how we do it up here. So with that being said, Coach, man, you got anything for us?
No, man, you said it all. I greatly appreciate it. Again, Instagram, we love you. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, we love you guys. You guys are awesome. We greatly appreciate your participation. We always look forward to talking with you guys because it's like the highlight of our day. So thank you guys for participating in this conversation. and every conversation for that matter. And we look forward to doing this again with you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. So that being said, let the best version of yourself be a blessing to everyone else, and we'll see you again next week.